Hey everybody, Adam here with Hometown Acres. Welcome back. If you guys have caught the last 4 or 5 videos, we did an entire build series on this 54 by 72 pole building, and the builders just left yesterday, and now it's our turn to get our hands a little bit dirty. First thing I want to do to this building before we start moving in is I want to get some lights hung in here, so in the dead of winter when it gets dark at 4:30, 5 o'clock, I can still come in here and work after dinner if I need to. Now, if you're an electrician, I recommend you just go ahead and skip this video because I am not. This is going to be the first wiring job I've ever done. And we're not tying into grid power. This is going to be completely off grid, powered by battery packs and maybe a couple of solar panels. And the lights we're going to be hanging up here are going to be these JC-LGL Lighting Company 100 watt UFO LED high bay lights. And we have 16 of them. So we're going to have 8 in here inside the building. We're going to have 4 out underneath the porch area up here. And then we're going to have 4 out under the lean-to. So we're going to have lighting underneath the entire building. And those high bay lights, I don't know if you guys have ever seen those before, but this thing's going to be lit up like a spaceship out here. It's going to be extremely bright. And that's the goal, is I want to have plenty of lighting out here because a lot of what I do is filming, and for filming you need good lighting. So again, all of the wiring we're going to be doing here today is going to be off grid. There's going to be no chance of getting electrocuted while I'm doing any of this wiring myself. But my thought process is these are all LEDs. They only pull 100 watts per light. Since we are going to be running off of a battery pack, I want to separate them into 4 separate switches. So the lean-to out there, the 4 lights out there are going to be on one switch. The covered porch with the sawmill area is going to be one switch. And then I will have 4 lights here and 4 lights over there on one switch. That way I can control how much power I am using because I will have limited power with the battery banks. If I had everything just powered onto one switch with 16 lights, I'd be using 1600 watts, which would drain the battery much faster than if I'm just working out on the sawmill area and I only need 400 watts out there. I don't have to light up the whole building, and it'll give me some more runtime off of that battery. So that's the plan. Got to get started hanging lights and then boxes. All of these lights, they just have a 110 volt plug on them, so we're going to just be hanging outlet boxes all up in the rafters and then plugging the lights into those. So I'm probably going to hang the lights first to make sure I like the spacing. Again, there's going to be 4 that way and then 4 this way. So I want to get all the lights hung first and then place the outlets within 5 feet of the lights and get everything all, nice and tidy on a string line and looking good. So let's get started.
Oh yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it yet or not, but I'm not the biggest fan of heights either.
So I am well aware that a man lift would be way easier, but I can get some stuff done here with the extension ladder, like get these lights hung. I'll probably get a man lift in here whenever the wiring part comes into it because that's not going to be fun to do from a ladder. But whatever I can get done now with just the extension ladder is that much less rental time I'll need with the man lift. So I've just got an eyelet there, and then these just hook right into it and hang. 1 done. 7 more to go in here, and then 8 more to go outside. All right, so I've got all of the lights hung in here out on the covered porch area where the sawmill is going to go and underneath the lean-to there. And I have decided that 20 feet up in the air is not the best place to learn for your first time electrical wiring. So I did call an electrician friend to come over. I'm gonna have him wire up everything in here that's 16 feet, everything up here that's probably about 20 feet up in the air. And then I want him to kind of coach me through wiring these 4 lights on the back of the lean-to. Since they're not quite so tall, I'll be able to do a lot of this from a ladder. I did call and ask about getting a man lift from our local rental yard. The problem is they only have indoor lifts, which will not work on this material here. And the only lift that they had that was rated for rough terrain like this here was a 33-foot lift that was probably 3 times the size of the indoor lift that I really need. The indoor lifts weighed about 3,000 pounds and they would do a total lift height of about 19 foot. And the only one that they had that was rated for outdoor use or rough terrain was about 10,000 pounds, so I couldn't pick it up myself, so I'd have to pay for delivery, and it was just a much larger, beefier machine, plenty overkill for the small little wiring job that we're going to do here. So it was going to be $1,000 to get that machine delivered here, and I really don't feel like spending $1,000 on a lift for one day. So you can see what I've come up here is I've taken an IBC tote, I've got our Baumolite skid steer quick attach mounting plate for the excavator, and then I put my pallet forks on there, and this will reach all the way up to the lights up there. The only problem is you need 2 people to do it, whereas a man lift, you can operate it from the platform. But since I've got my electrician friend coming over anyway, I'll be running the excavator, he'll be in the basket, and this should be, I mean, it's not the safest thing in the world, but it's certainly better than a pallet or a bucket of a skid loader, which many of you guys have pointed out over the last few videos of building this garage.
So while we're waiting for my electrician buddy to come over tomorrow, I thought I might as well get a load of stone ordered today, get that spread on the inside of the building. That way I'm not wasting the rest of today on something that I could otherwise get done.
All right, moment of truth. I wanted to wait until it was pitch black out here to come out here and try out these lights. So we're gonna flip on one switch. And again, we have these separated onto 4 separate switches so I can control how much power I am pulling. So with 4 lights, we are pulling 450 watts, and it says it would run that section of lights for about 2 hours in here. So again, that's why it was important for me to separate it out onto 4 separate switches so I could run these lights for 2 hours, but if I flip everything on, if I had just wired everything on one switch, I mean, these lights are very, very bright, but they do pull a decent amount of juice when you start putting 16 of them together. And right now we're pulling 1800 watts, and even at 95% power, so almost a full charge, it would only run the whole building for 30 minutes in here. So that's why it's nice to be able to flick these off. And let's say I'm just gonna be working out here in the sawmill area. I actually had 5 lights put on this strand because the plan is to put log splitters, firewood processors, and all that in this area. So I wanted to have that light on the same switch. Now, I mentioned before that these lights are from JC-LGL, which is an LED lighting company. They saw the videos we were putting together on the new pole building and reached out to us and asked if we had any plans to add lighting to the building, and we said yes. So these lights are sponsored, but I mean, they speak for themselves. I'm not here to sell you on them. They do what they say they're gonna do. They light up the building, right? The one thing I will say is when I was looking at lights for the building, I've seen some other brands out there that each one of these lights was about $90 to $100 a piece, whereas if you go on JCLGL's website right now, I'll leave a link in the description below, each one of these lights was somewhere between $40 and $50 per light. So these ones are significantly cheaper or less expensive.
One other thing I forgot to mention while I was filming this is if you reach out to JCLGL's customer support, they will actually help you determine how many lights you need, what size the lights need to be, and the placement of those lights for optimal lighting conditions. That way you're not getting more lights than you need and wasting power, or worse, you don't have enough lights and you're underlit.
Each one of these lights is 14,000 lumens, and they do have an adjustment setting on them from a high, medium, and low. I've got them set right now to high. I probably won't ever go up there and adjust them to medium or low. I suppose I could if I wanted to conserve even more power, but with 14,000 lumens on each one of these lights, and if we go look at all 16 lights that we have out here, that puts us at roughly getting close to 250,000 lumens out here for this whole pole building, which is a serious amount of lighting that we've got going on. But there's not a dark spot anywhere in under this building. But yeah, guys, the little excavator cherry picker here worked out pretty well today. Saved me about $1,000 in a man lift rental. Now, you did have the incremental cost of needing a second body here because you can't run this by yourself. You have to have somebody in the basket and somebody working the controls inside the cab of the excavator. But I only had $200 in an electrician to come out here and wire all this. That's one of my favorite things about owning equipment is when they help pay for themselves. I don't know about you guys, but there have been countless occasions where that excavator or the tractor or the side-by-side or something has saved me $200 here, $500 there, or on a day like today, $800 on a man lift rental. It's always a good feeling and helps you justify it to the wife on why you needed to get one, right? Not only the $800 that we saved on having to rent a man lift, but we also saved a couple $100 by spreading that load of gravel by ourselves with the tractor. If I had to pay somebody to come in here and do that, that would have been, I mean, at least 2-3 hours worth of work with somebody with either a tractor or a skid loader or something. And for them to haul a piece of equipment in here, or even for me to rent one, would have cost, you know, $300, $400, $500 for a day rental. Speaking of getting the gravel spread in here, that looks pretty good. I had enough material to kind of do a little bit of the approach as well, pulling into the building. And if you'll notice, we walk out here, I did not stone the sawmill or firewood production area. You can see I might have a little bit more grading work to do because it looks like we had some water blow in and there maybe is a little bit of a low spot there. So I'll need to make sure that I get all of that water shedding away from the building. But I've never understood people that put gravel down where they're going to be sawmilling or making firewood. If you guys have ever done any of that, you know how much scrap it makes. Sawdust, bark, splinters off of the wood, all the chaff that comes off of the log splitters and the firewood processors. And once you put gravel down, I mean, you spend all this money on gravel, you might have $500, $1,000 in gravel, and then you just cover it with wood chips and basically bark mulch. So I've never understood the whole idea of putting gravel underneath a wood yard. My thought here is I'm just going to leave this bare dirt, and if and when I need to come in here and clean it out, I can just come in, drop the box blade, and just drag everything out, and I'm back to square one. I'm back to where I am today before I ever moved anything in here. Now, eventually, over time, could you chisel this down and lower your grade? Yeah, and then you just bring more dirt back in. But bringing rock in here, to me, that's like the worst thing you can do for a wood yard. It's either concrete or dirt. There's no in between because there's no way to clean all that stuff out of gravel. I mean, maybe sawdust, you could take a leaf blower and blow it out of the gravel, but other than that, for a wood yard, concrete or dirt. That's my opinion. Anyways, guys, the building is now officially ready to move into. We got our lights in, we got our gravel in. There is nothing holding us back now from starting to move the equipment in, and I am really excited to show you the plan I have for how we're going to lay the equipment out for production. Hope you guys will stick around for the next one. Give me a big thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and hope to see you soon.